Okay, so this is the Bible study for First Timothy chapter 6, verses 17 through 21. So just a few verses today. It says, "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to your care. Turn away from godless chatter and the opposing ideas of what is falsely called knowledge, which some have professed, and in so doing have departed from the faith. Grace be with you all." All right, so remember that you can download PDF copies of this Bible study at www.abqnaz.org/alive so that you can follow along as we study this text. And number one says, "Who is Timothy told to address?" in the last section of this letter. So just before this, um, it says, love of money. These are the things you are to insist on. If anyone teaches otherwise and does not agree to the sound instruction of the Lord Jesus Christ and to godly teaching, they are conceited and understand nothing. So it talks about false teachers, but it also talks about um, the fact that they want to heap on themselves money. And then it warns Timothy about the love of money. So we could say everyone, which I think this is applicable for us, and therefore we could probably say everyone is not a bad answer. But um, but in the end, he's really talking to them, those who are false teachers. And I'm just looking at what comes next. Command those who are rich in this present age. That's this. He's talking in the meantime to Timothy and to the church. Um, so, um, yeah. B, those who are struggling with oppression. C, those who can't pay their bills. Or D, those who are rich in this uh, present world. So I just reread the question and it says, "Who is Timothy told to address in this last section?" So he's been talking to those people, but now in verse 17, he says, "Command those who are rich in this present world." So specifically in this last section, not in the last section, like I originally thought it said, um, in this last section of the letter, it says, "Command those who are rich in this present world." So that's who he's talking to specifically. Um, Let me just say that doesn't change what I said about everyone, because most of us who think we are not rich are more rich than we realize. And so sometimes when we talk about the rich, everybody else nobody thinks they're rich because nobody's as rich as they wish they were. So whenever something is addressed to the rich, I think we have a tendency to sort of tune it out and think it's not for us because I don't feel rich. But when we compare our situation with others, we find out that we're more rich than we realized. Number two, what is he told to command them? So it says, "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant." That's A. B, not to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, which is also there. C, to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. D, do good. E, be rich in good deeds. And F, be generous and willing to share. So this is all of that. So it says, I know what you're going to be tempted with if you're rich. You're going to be tempted to be arrogant. You're going to be tempted to put your hope in your wealth, which it doesn't last. And instead, don't do that, but instead put your hope in God, do good, be rich in good deeds, be generous and willing to share. All of these are things you might not do if you were arrogant and put your hope in your wealth, because you would hold on to it and you wouldn't use it to do good for the glory of God and to be generous and to help others. Number three, what does Paul say they will be doing if they follow these commands? A, there's nothing they can do. Being rich is just evil. That's not what it says. B, by being rich in the more important things, even while being rich in this world, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the age to come. So it's really popular. Bernie Sanders ran a whole campaign on it, sort of against the 1%, and to talk about how these people are better than, richer than us, and it's not fair, and we need to take care of this. That's a popular. I can see why he did so well. Everybody can get riled up about people that have something that they don't have. So in the church, when we don't consider ourselves rich, it's really easy for us to get riled up and say it's harder for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle, and just really kind of nail down on those things, and just kind of come to the conclusion that being rich is generally evil. That's not what this text says, and nowhere in the Bible does it actually say that. Although it warns us against what can happen when we're rich, it warns us against some of the ways of thinking that are common among the rich. But this text actually says that if you follow these commands, even though you're rich, so command those who are rich to do these things, and by doing so, in this way they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. So it says a rich person can enter the kingdom of heaven by following these commands, by not being arrogant, by not putting their hope in their wealth, but rather to use their wealth for good deeds, and put their hope in God. So if you respond properly to God, even though He has blessed you with wealth, it is still possible. And some of you are like, woo, yeah, I knew it was possible to get rich and get into the kingdom. Now, that has not been my experience. I have not gotten rich. I could have. I have chosen poverty in ministry. I've chosen not to do things that I know would make me money because I'm doing what God's called me to do, and that's first in my life. Does that mean that nobody will be called to do things that make them money? I don't think that's what it means, but I do think that it means that if somebody does have funds, God has a plan for that too, and how He's going to bless others through them and through those funds. And if we're not putting our trust in God and doing good with what He has blessed us with, then we're in danger. Um, but if we do, if we are faithful with what He has given us, and do good with it, I always say this: who does God want to give more to? The ones that take what He has already given and we do good with it. And we don't hoard it for ourselves. And so if He trusts you, if He knows that you're going to do good with what you have, maybe He will be willing to give you more. And so what you do with what you have is pretty important. I'm not saying if you're faithful and you tithe and you give over and above that you're going to be rich, but I'm saying there's a better chance of you being wealthy than of somebody that's unfaithful, because somebody that's unfaithful, why would God bless you with more? You're not going to use it for His kingdom, and you've already proven it. Number four. So then, is being rich evil? Yes, it obviously is. Don't you watch the news? And particularly during political campaigns, because they prey on that. B, well, since none of us really considers ourselves rich, this is an easy group to throw stones at. There's always somebody richer than me, and that's what we just talked about. C, not necessarily, but being arrogant and putting your hope in your wealth is. And we got to see these distinctions. We got to recognize that one of the biggest temptations for somebody who is rich is putting their hope in their wealth instead of God. And so I think God sometimes knows that you'll put your hope in your wealth and not him, and that's why he can't trust you with wealth. Um, or me, for instance, perhaps. D. Sometimes earthly wealth can give you means to bless others, to do good, be rich in good deeds, and be generous and willing to share. And I've seen that. I've seen people living their lives that way. E, well, if you handle it right, it isn't evil in itself. However, the temptation to be arrogant and put your hope in wealth instead of God is certainly great. And I've already said that several times, but that's really the point we're nailing home here. Number five, where may Paul have gotten a teaching like this? See Matthew 19:24 and Mark 10:25. So let's just pull this up here. Um, And it says, again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. And that's both of those texts say the same thing. So Paul is building on the teaching of Jesus, which does not say that a rich person can't go to heaven, but it does point out the difficulty because the temptation is great. Number six, what has been entrusted to Timothy's care that Paul may be telling him to guard? So it says in 20, Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to your care. A, the proper teaching of the gospel that he is urged to defend against those who would twist it throughout this letter. Yes, and we talked about that at the beginning there. B, the gift that he was urged not to neglect in 4:14. Certainly, that his gift and his calling is certainly something that's been entrusted to him. C, the congregation or group of believers that Paul left him to protect from false doctrines and ensure proper oversight. Yes, honestly, we could maybe add D, possibly finances. Whether they were the tithes and the offerings of the people that had been entrusted to him as the pastoral figure, or whether they were his own income. Uh, it, I think this is one of those that's there's. I think there was a specific intention, but this is um, a good general truth that could be given for anything that has been entrusted to his care. Number seven, what has God entrusted to you that you may need to guard? There's some lines here to list, and we could list more. Perhaps, like me, God has entrusted a congregation or a church. God's entrusted to me my family. God's entrusted to me the blessings. I'm not rich, but I'm more wealthy than most people in other parts of the world, and God has trusted me with this. Um, we got to be careful because He's not telling us to like guard, as in hoard our wealth, for sure. That's why I think it's probably more likely that He was talking about the ministry that He's called to. But we should guard in terms of be good stewards of our wealth and those people that He's put us in oversight of. And number eight is a reflection question. Are you guarding what has been entrusted to you? Let's consider that.